Hey everyone, and welcome to another Flash Masters live stream. Now in today's video, we're going to be speaking to US-based wedding photographer Tim Kamppinen, and he's going to be showing us how he created these 4 images. Now for those of you who are Flash Masters members, we'll also be showing you how Tim created these images. And all of that information will be live for you to watch in the Flash Masters members zone. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of Tim Kamppinen, he is currently the top of our Flash Masters leaderboard, and he's won a total of 8 gold awards and 22 silvers. So not only is he leading the way in 2023, he is also the greatest winner of awards ever since we started Flash Masters. So we're so excited to see exactly how he shot all of his amazing award-winning images. So, without further ado, let me welcome one of the men with the best moustache and facial hair that you'll ever see in the wedding photography industry, Mr. Tim Kamppinen. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to have you on stream, and it's been fantastic. We've done lots of live streams, as you know, and I know you join them regularly. Lots of them with our judges and our ambassadors, but I think it's going to be really fantastic tonight to be, interviewing a member, someone who's joined Flash Masters, someone who has been here from day dot, I think. I think you might be one of our OGs.
Yeah, I was.
And someone who has round after round produced stunning, incredible, award-winning images. I can't say for certain, I probably need to look back through, but I don't think there's been a round where you haven't won an award. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, at least 1 silver in all the rounds.
Amazing. So yeah, it was fantastic to look through the leaderboard, like 8 gold images, 22 silver. So yeah, I'm going to be chewing your ear off and asking loads of questions about how on earth, month after month, after every submission, you're creating images that are just wowing the judges. So first of all, congratulations, because that's just such a phenomenal achievement.
Well, thanks so much, and I'm super honored to be here, especially considering all the amazing people that you guys have talked to, all the ambassadors and the other members and stuff that you've had on. So it's really the pressure is on, I guess. I'll try to do my best here and make it a worthwhile stream for people watching.
I've got no doubt we're going to learn an awful lot. It's going to be great to get into your mind, pick through sort of like how you choose your images as well, which ones to submit and what you think you're looking for. Because like I said, every single round with different judges, every single round the judges are like, this is award winning. So to do that so consistently is just an incredible achievement and says a lot about your skill level. Before we go into it, I'm just going to start some drama anyway. So we have, I'm trying to create like an online war. We also have your nemesis, who you probably love each other dearly, Mr. Jeff Tisbert on the stream, who currently...
Come on, let's not sell them short.
Arch nemesis, I absolutely love that. So yeah, I'm sure he's going to be watching very closely too. We've only got 1 round left to go, so we've got till the end of the month to get your submissions in, and I've just got to say, I am so excited to send those images back to the judges and see who's going to be crowned our photographer of the year, which at the moment it could be you.
Yeah, it could easily go either way.
It's very, very, very close. So yeah, it's going to be down to the wire. And we recorded the Flash Masters podcast last night, and I said on there, me keeping a secret is quite tough. So for me to know probably a week or 2 before the announcement who's won is going to be absolutely, it's going to be so hard for me to do that. And Jeff has said, I'm coming after you, Tim. I'm not wondering. Oh, I said,
I'm not going to trash talk.
I was going to say, the pair of you is so sweet. To try and start a trash talk battle between you guys would just be... You're both lovely and very cool, but I really think that would be quite a lame trash talking session from you both.
Yeah, it would be sad. People would tune out pretty quickly.
Bless you. Well, I think we're going to get into some images. Like I said, as we're going through, I've got, a few off-topic conversations or questions about sort of how you select your images, etc. But I will just say this first image that we've put on, I remember this entry coming through, and obviously we receive, hundreds of entries every single round. And the moment that Neil and I was going through them, and we don't judge them ourselves, we do it for fun. But as soon as we saw this image, it stopped us in our tracks, and we absolutely loved it. So when it came to a gold award, we weren't, at all surprised. So the first image coming up here, I think this must have been, I think it was your first gold.
I think so, yeah, last fall. Maybe the second or third round, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. Oh, this is interesting. I've just got a guest one appearing. Oh, wait a second. One moment. I need my technical support. I'm just trying to add you in so you're on the left. Oh, there he is. Voila. Every time I do these live streams, I'm like, I've got this under control. And every time I'm like, Neil. So, yeah, thank you so much to Neil Redfern in the background, who is taking control of this, because I always tend to mess them up. So, yeah, first of all, Tim, obviously this is a stunning image. And I know that people are going to be, lots of questions in terms of like how many lights, where were they placed? So, first of all, should we go with how many lights did you use to create this image?
Yeah, so this was four 80-200s.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can elaborate.
Yeah.
It's so I had two. So this was at the reception, at this venue, the ceremony and the reception is all in like one big space. I mean, it's divided, but this is in between the ceremony and the reception, and there was just this. They're just standing in front of like just a boring blank wall, and I have two flashes behind them on stands, like right behind their backs, pointed at the wall. They're probably like 5 or 6 feet away from the wall, and those flashes have gels, and then I have two flashes lighting their faces. And those had just a flash with a grid for each of those.
Amazing. So in terms of obviously, you've already covered obviously the gels are on the back there. Are you shooting this on like an 85 mil? I'm kind of making a guess there that it might have been 85.
Well, it would have not been a prime because I wasn't shooting it with an 85 at that time. Let me see. I can look that here. This was at, so this would have been, this is at 45 millimeters, so it would have been my 70-200 that I had when I was shooting Nikon still.
Right, brilliant. Yeah. So this is quite a sort of, should we say, it's
F11.
one from the archives. F11.
Yeah.
Absolutely
so I
beautiful.
Probably just to kill the ambient light and make sure all of the detail in their clothing was sharp, because there's so many sparkly sequins and everything and stuff. So
yeah, that's absolutely stunning.
I think they might have been standing like under an ugly fluorescent light or something. So that's probably also why I stopped down to just kill all that ambient.
Absolutely stunning. And what sort of flash power do you think you were using on these? I know people ask me this the day after I've taken an image, and I'm like, I don't know, somewhere around that area.
Yeah, I would guess the rear lights. Well, there's a white wall, so and not very far away, so probably not even that high. Maybe like 1/8 or 1/4, if I was guessing. The lights on their faces probably were pretty low because it was the stands were like just out of frame, so didn't need a ton. But again, I shot at f11, so factor that in.
I'm quite shocked.
Short answer is I have no idea.
That's good enough. I will say that I'm personally quite shocked that there was just a grid on there, because actually it does look quite soft light. I thought you would have had a softbox or a sphere, but it was just a grid on each.
No, well, if you look at the shadows on their neck, that's what always tells the tale. for me because, well, or you can see like the shadow from his boutonniere is pretty sharp. But as long as you turn the nose into the light and basically if you hide the nose shadow, the light ends up looking a lot softer than it really is, because it falls off around the edge of the face just because the face is curved. So that gives the appearance of a soft light, even though it's actually a hard light source. So that's whenever I'm using a hard light, I'm almost always, having, whoever is the main subject getting the light. Usually, if it's, I mean, in this case, it's both of them. If they're close together, usually I will angle the bride's face into the light so that she gets the nice light and the nose shadow doesn't go across the face, but it's kind of hidden. And that gives that appearance of the soft light, even though it's not. Actually, if you look closely, then you can see there's like hard shadows in different places. But it's a nice illusion that you can get away with just with the angle of the lighting.
Yeah,
and of course, then you can always just like retouch it after the fact to smooth out the skin texture and stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. The thing I really, really like about this is that all you had to take this image was just a white wall.
Yeah, that's and that's kind of to me photos like this where it's like kind of creating something literally out of like nothing are the ones that I really kind of am the most proud of, because a lot of the photos that I'll do really rely on a cool looking environment and showing off the location and stuff, but that's in my mind not as difficult and not as challenging as trying to think up something in a really boring like nothing space that where there's nothing obvious going on. So but I like creating both types, but these ones I kind of hang my hat on a little bit as far as, I actually did something creative. I wasn't just telling them to stand in front of a pretty building or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've got a couple of questions on this. So Steve Dornan's asking, I always seem to get too much spill across the subject. Is it purely grids to stop this, and I suppose angle? So in terms of like from my perspective as well, how high are your flashes? Are they sort of angling down or sort of, what height are they at?
So again, if you look at the nose shadow, that's always the clue as far as all the shadows, but the nose shadow for a portrait. So you can see these lights weren't super high because the shadow is sort of in line with the bottom of the nose, and arguably the light on him, I maybe should have put it higher because the bottom of his nose is lit up a little bit, which if you go by like the technical rules of portrait photography, you would want the light to be a little bit higher. But I think with this shot, I know what he's talking about as far as because I do this type of shot where they're kind of holding hands and looking apart from each other fairly often, and it is sometimes hard to avoid those like his shadow falling on her and vice versa. If you look, I think honestly in this case, I think the light that I had pointed at him was far enough forward that his shadow wasn't hitting the side of her dress. I'm moving my mouse, but I know people can't see it.
No.
Yeah, but he is mostly in shadow over here, so her shadow I think kind of is hitting him a little bit more.
Yeah.
But so that's something I guess you can bias one person a little bit farther ahead, or position your light if there's one person that you want to avoid. Usually if it's a bride and a groom and the groom is wearing a dark suit, it's going to be a lot less distracting if the shadows are falling on his dark black suit.
Yeah.
Versus like the shadows going across the white dress are going to be a lot more obvious.
That's a very good point, actually. Very good point. So if you were going to do this again and they were in traditional sort of, white dress and suit, potentially have the bride ever so slightly further forward? would you say? Because then obviously the groom's light's going to be sort of hopefully
Yeah,
passing
I think
her.
that's what I would try. And this is just me thinking on the fly. I've never actually like consciously done that, but it's a good. I'm going to remember it next time I do this shot to
Well,
try
I've
that.
never attempted this kind of shot, but I'm definitely going to be trying to add it to my repertoire because I know we have a similar pose coming up later on as well. And every time I see them, I really, really love them. It's such a striking pose, really, and quite strong as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
really,
like.
really like it.
Yeah, I like the like you said, it's like a strong, like powerful looking pose, which is nice because most of the poses we do are, very romantic and soft, and they're just cuddled together. But it's just a little. I posted a similar photo like this somewhere years ago, and somebody was like, "Oh, they're not even looking at each other. What a terrible wedding photo!" in some random Facebook group. And I was like, "Well, this isn't the only photo I delivered. I mean, there's lots of photos where they're looking at each other and cuddling and kissing and whatever. And this is just one photo that I did something different. So settle down."
Well, I personally love it, and I could still see where other people would come from, but we all take the romantic poses too. But yeah, I just think they just look strong, united. Yeah, it's a different part of a marriage, and yeah, we're not just there for the romance. There's the day to day. Oh, look at me! I'm gonna get all, all. I
And
can't
you
even think of the
can you,
word.
you can do one thing I'll say is you can do a similar pose and have them look at each other. But I would say if you're going to do that, like say you do this shot and then you want them to look at each other, uh, don't just have them turn their heads because now the light, it's no longer short lighting them.
Yeah.
Their faces are going to be broad lit. It's not going to look nearly as dramatic. So if you're going to have them look towards each other, now you want to move the lights behind where they're standing, if that makes sense. So the light would be coming in over the shoulder and giving that short light on their faces as they look in towards each other.
That's an interesting thought. I thought otherwise to move them a little bit further forward, but kind of cross light potentially. No. Yeah, no,
The
that would still be short light if you if you move the lights in front of them and they sort of cross
well
and they
in
were
this
looking
shot,
inwards.
in this shot the light is in front of them, just slightly. I mean, it's way out on the sides,
Yeah,
but it's not. It's like in front of the line of their shoulder because they have their head turned.
yeah.
So it's coming in like this. But if I had them turn their head this way, look at each other, then I would want then see because then that light's going to be coming like this, hitting them.
Yeah,
So this is the short light, like this photo. If they turn their head, now it's like broad lighting.
broad light, yeah.
And so if I just move those lights back, now this light
Coming
is
over.
lighting her, and that light's lighting him. This is
I
really
want
hard.
I know. No, I want to play with this.
Yeah.
I want to see how that works. Yeah, and whether yeah, I'd imagine that would be really quite dramatic. Like I said, otherwise, I think using sort of the light that's by the groom to light the bride and vice versa and kind of crossing
Yeah,
it. We'll have to have a play, but like, that's the nice thing about Flash, isn't it? And until you play, you just don't know what you come up with. And it's obvious that you do experiment and play because we don't, this image stood out a million miles when we received it and instantly was like, wow. And my other question as well, obviously you've got the blue and the red and that works brilliantly. Do you put anything onto those to create sort of the roundness? Is there any grids or is it just, bare Flash but with a gel in front?
so for this shot, I honestly don't remember if I had a sphere or a diffusion gel or something to smooth it, because the 8200 does have kind of a wonky looking Fresnel pattern.
Yeah.
So I might have done that, or I might have just kind of dodged and burned it to smooth it out. I don't really remember exactly.
Either works. Is an absolutely stunning image, and like you said, you took a space with nothing of interest. Yeah, I'll be interested to see now how many, or we've obviously got our next deadline for entries coming up at the end of this month, whether we get any Tim inspired looking away gel behind, because this is definitely something you want in your back pocket for those days when it's raining, you've got no space. Because I said, yeah, if you shot this on 40 something mil, you don't need a huge amount of space to create this. You just need a plain wall.
Yeah, it was not there was like a door on one side and like some kind of a like electrical box on the other side. It wasn't like a huge expanse of space that we had to work with. So it was very tight, and yeah, it's the lights is doing all the work. It's just a flat surface behind them.
Amazing. And then my one other question would be with those, do you give them like any kind of prompts, like to get that sort of serious look? Or when you're doing your look away shots, do you tell your couple, or how do you communicate what you want them to do for that?
Honestly, I I usually don't. For these shots, it's more just like I just want to make sure the angle is right. So I'll tell them, like, I'll start off with like, look at the light, like look at the flash right there, and then I'll say like, okay, now slowly turn your nose towards me, and I'll tell you when to stop, because I want to see when there's that when the profile looks right, and I'll take the shot. And usually for these types of shots, I don't really give a lot of direction on like expressions and stuff, except if I see, the worst is if somebody looks like really wide-eyed, like the deer in the headlights, and then I'll tell them like, just squint slightly, like you're looking at something way off in the distance. Or Ooh. For guys, I'll tell them, like pretend you're Clint Eastwood and just kind of like narrow your eyes a little bit. Because that goes for any type of portrait. When people have the like wide-eyed, they look just like they're terrified of your camera, and that's not going to look good, regardless of what kind of photo you're doing. So I'm always mindful of that.
Amazing. It seems like they understood the assignment and they just got it. And like I said, even just their faces.
This couple was pretty. They were pretty easy to work with, honestly. Like they were, I mean, you can kind of tell by how like impeccable the outfits are, and they really they were into doing I did a ton of portraits with them. I think there's another photo coming up of this same couple, and you'll see the bride has a totally different dress on because she changed for the reception. And but it was all on the wedding day, both of those photos.
Amazing. So one wedding, 2 gold images.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. You lucky git. Absolutely brilliant. So then finally, Neil's got one more question for this. And did you think of this idea or this image before the day or on the day itself? Have you previously tried or played with this before? Or was it like, what am I going to do?
So this shot, I did think of this shot. I think just a few days before the wedding, because they had told me about their outfits, and I was thinking about, the contrasting colors and doing something with that, and I sort of, kind of I more or less, this is one shot that I did kind of just have in my mind going into it, and I was ready to go. And I'll admit I messed up part of this because I was remembering the conversation where they were telling me about the outfits they were wearing, and the bride's other dress that she changed into was a teal dress, and she had told me that, and for some reason that was stuck in my head, and so I had these gels ready to go, and instead of a blue gel I had a teal gel because I just wasn't thinking straight about what I was doing. And I pulled them out and set everything up, and then I realized what was going on, and I was like, I don't know, like we were in a rush and I didn't have time to mess with it. So in the raw file, this is not actually blue, it's teal.
Oh,
and
wow.
I changed the color um, in Lightroom actually with the hue adjustments and stuff and the masking. But
You'd never ever tell. I love the fact that you just, yeah, thrown yourself under the bus there, or not metaphorically, but yeah, we make those errors all the time. And yeah,
yeah, I mean that's why. Yeah, I hope no one thinks that like I just nail everything perfectly in camera. I try to as much as I can, but I definitely am not above fixing my mistakes in post. So
well, it's absolutely stunning. And like I said, out of, we see hundreds and hundreds of entries every single round. But this one, I remember seeing it for the first time and both of us really stopping and going, wow. Like, yeah, we knew this was only ever going to win gold. It's absolutely stunning. And like I said, yeah, just know a little bit more about it. I think we might get a few more sort of entries now looking at to use that technique. And I'm certainly going to be giving it a go because I've never even posed a couple looking different ways before. And like I said, as I was collating your images for the stream, it's like, oh, it works. Absolutely works. So, yes, let's move on to our second image. Oh, another one with gels. Was this shot with a teal gel and changed in post, or was it actually blue? Oh, actually, or did you not use a gel on the back? Oh, yeah, I'll be quiet.
so it's not a gel because this was done with bicolor LEDs. So I used so I have the Godox LC500. It's basically like their knockoff of the Ice Light. And that is a light that I've had for a few years, and I do really like using constant light when it's dark because you can see exactly where the shadows are. You don't have to take you don't have to chimp a lot and do all these test shots, and you can just see what it's doing, and it makes it a little bit faster. And so for this one, I have two of those. So if anyone doesn't know, it's like a light stick. It has a handle, and it's like, I don't know, like 18 inches is like probably as how long the actual area that the light comes out is. And it has barn doors on it too, which I love. So you can really control the spill of the light. The barn doors are built in. So for this one, I had two of those. I had one lighting, one coming from camera left, lighting the couple and mainly lighting the bride because as you see, I sacrificed the groom for the for the bride here, lighting her, and then I had the other one in the background as kind of a rim light, but more just kind of like lighting the wall. And so basically, I think I just left the main light on tungsten, set my white balance to 3200 or whatever, and the rear light I left on daylight, and so that's how I got the blue background light. And then I did kind of have to finish the job in Lightroom because over here on the right side where the main light was spilling, wasn't actually, I wasn't getting that blue color because I was being lit by the tungsten light. So I did change the color in certain parts of this image, but the background was blue for the most part.
This is fantastic. It's just anyone, well, not anyone can do it because you need to have the vision to do it and the creativity, but you're taking another plain wall, this time with bricks, and creating something stunning. And it's really nice to see as well that it's not just using off-camera flash. I've just put Neil's link up, so he's been having a little look at the light sticks as well. So we do have the link there for anyone who'd like to have a look. And I think, we are, as Flash Masters, we allow off-camera flash or any kind of off-camera lighting that you're adding to a scene as well. And I don't think we've spoken very much about the use of constant light. So yeah, it's really nice to see that you've used it here. And I wouldn't have looked at this image and gone, this is a constant light image at all. Obviously the light's controlled so well, and the fall off on the bride's face and her arm as well is beautiful. So I'm guessing obviously the barn doors are on there just to try and stop that sort of spill as well.
Yeah, the barn doors are key for this because that's keeping it's keeping that light from spilling on the background behind the groom. And like I said, there was some spilling on the right side of the image that I had to adjust the color to make it match, but that was kind of unavoidable just because the bride, I had to have the light hitting the bride, so some of it's going to hit the background.
Yeah.
But yeah, those lights are really nice because of the barn doors built in. That's like the key feature of those that I really like about them.
Amazing. Do you tend to use constant lights at any other part of the day as well, or is it just tend to be for portraits?
I have used them. So to be honest, I haven't been using them much lately at all because I got some new like very portable softboxes that I've been using. But I typically would use them for portraits during getting ready a lot of times because they're quick to use, and I don't always have a lot of time to do portraits of the groom or of the bride. And then I will use them for night shots if I feel like I want to be able to see what I'm doing really well, and if I'm trying to balance with like string lights in the background, that kind of thing. It works for that because those lights are dim anyway, so it's not like you're trying to overpower the sun with it or anything. It's definitely useless for that. But if you're in a dark environment, it works pretty well.
Amazing. Yeah, like I said, I never would have guessed that was anything other than, a softbox or, some gels, etc. as well. So yeah,
I have used them for like, there was one, it might just be one, but there was a wedding. It was like a COVID wedding that was a very small, like there was like 20 people there, and it was like in a rented like Airbnb house, and I used it for like basically the whole reception for like the dances and toasts and everything because it was a small room and it was very dark, and it was like I wasn't even gonna be able to focus very well without adding some light in, so I was like, I just used it for all that. But that becomes challenging because then you have to make sure your shutter speed is high enough to freeze the motion.
Very good point.
And then you really start cranking your ISO if they're like a reasonable distance away for like dances and stuff. So because they're not the brightest.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point to make as well. Particularly anyone who's thinking, obviously, I can use these at night time, etc. You just need to be a little bit more aware that you're keeping your shutter speed a bit quicker. Because obviously, if that light is on for the entirety of the exposure, if people are moving, you're just more likely to get sort of that ghosting of people as well. So, yeah, something to bear in mind. But that's another thing that I don't currently use, that thinking, oh, they're quite quick. I've occasionally stolen Neil's Rotalight for like cutting the cake, etc. Because in the UK, often they cut the cake and then go straight into first dance. They always throw the cake in the corner of the room, usually by a fire exit with like a fire hydrant behind them you've got to try to hide.
Yeah.
And you're literally expected to do that straight away and then go straight into first dance. So yeah, I have stolen his Rosalight. I don't know if that's similar in the US, but yeah, that's always a fun time where literally you've got two big events happening straight after each other in different parts of the room.
Yeah, it's I can see how that would be handy to have like just two separate like lighting, so you can have the first dance set up and then do something completely different. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like a hero. Walk in with your constant light source, light them for cutting the cake. Everyone else comes around with their phones and then just turn the light off and run away, and everyone's like, what? Yeah. I don't do that. I do let them. I am the nice photographer, and if I do put my light on, I do keep it on so that guests can get their photo too. Get some brownie points, but you could be really mean and just run away. Anyway, I'm off on a different tangent.
Well, I always end up, I think, yeah, I don't, guests probably hate me because I'm always asking if we can like take the cake out and turn it around so I can get the guests in the background, and then they can't see anything. But it's a lot better photo from, if I could, especially because they always cram it up against a wall.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's not even anywhere to get it to see their face, let alone a good background, so.
Yeah, I
That's
wish we
why I
could
do
do
that.
that. There's so many venues just don't want to do it. Yeah, they're like,
Oh,
no,
really?
it's there in
They
the
won't even move
corner.
it?
And you're like, just put it on the dance floor. They're literally about to do their first dance. Put it on the dance floor. My lights
Yeah.
are set up. I could take the photo and then just pick the table up, move the cake, and everyone's there in the right space. But yeah, more often than not, venues don't want to move tables with cakes on. So
I just move it
yeah.
myself sometimes.
Oh, you wild one.
I mean, it depends. If it looks like it's about to topple over, I'm not touching it. But if it's like a small cake and the table is light, I'll just pick it up and move it myself because I mean, the couples aren't going to get mad at me. I'm just going to tell them, yeah, this is going to be a better angle, and then there you go. Everybody's
There you
happy.
go. That's me told. I'm doing all my weight training because I know you're someone else who likes to lift your weights. I've
Oh
used
yeah,
this weight.
we got
I've done my
the
weight training.
gym over here.
Wow. Goodness me. That's a proper setup. This is why you're able just to pick
Yeah,
up the table and the cake and go for a stroll.
right.
Amazing. So yeah,
Well,
so anyone who can't do
I
that,
get a
you need to
workout
go
just
gym.
carrying my bag around, my giant rolling case. It's like 80 or
Well,
90 pounds when it's all fully loaded.
you know what you need? A Drew Dodd trolley. There you go, Drew. You're very welcome. I'm going to throw that shout out there. Brilliant. Okay, then. Are we okay to go on to the next image?
Yep.
Let's do this. Oh, no. Oh, I messed it up. Every time. Ah, there it is. Ah. Another one that instantly absolutely exquisite, stunning, beautiful. And I'm guessing here this might have been quite tough balancing what appears to be a strong ambient light as well with the use of flash as well. So yes, talk us through it, Tim.
Yep. So this one, this is on the staircase at the JW Marriott in Grand Rapids, which is a venue that does a lot of weddings. And there's always, typically a lot of, at least earlier this time of year, this was like in June, I think, when this wedding was. There's a lot of strong sunlight coming through this window. And it's a location that people want to shoot at. And then you get there and there's like all this hard sun. So it can be tough to balance that. So what I did here was, basically everything, this shadow line here, I'm pointing to my mouse again. The shadow line that you'll notice halfway down the bride's dress,
Yeah,
that everything from there down is sunlight hitting
yeah,
her dress. And everything basically above that is my flash with, I have a flash right it was actually in the frame. I photoshopped it out, right on the right side, like up over the hand railing there was a flash with a grid on it. And that was, lighting her face and arm and the flowers and everything. So if you saw the raw file was quite looked pretty underexposed because I was trying to save those highlights on the dress was my primary objective with the ambient exposure. And then the flash was not as bright as it looks in this photo because I brought that up because I knew I wanted to
yeah,
bring up those shadows in the background. So I underexposed the flash a little bit to kind of match that, which is a good thing to think about because if you know what you're going to do in post with editing, you can make some slightly better decisions with your lighting. So if I know I'm going to bring up all of this area behind the bride, then I don't necessarily want the flash to be like, right at the verge of clipping as soon as I start to bring
yeah.
up that exposure. So I'll let the flash be a little bit underexposed, knowing that I'm going to bring up that whole area of the photo anyway.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a really important, especially when we're using flash. And there's so many things to consider when taking this kind of portrait. To not clip the dress, to then add the flash. It's so much easier just to paint the exposure in just a little bit more, where you've underexposed on the flash, and you've gone too hot, and then you've lost all the detail.
yeah. Hmm.
Absolutely stunning. Or what I was going to say as well, like, what is it with brides and staircases? Like, everyone sees a staircase, like, I want a photo on the stairs. And usually when brides say that, I'm like, oh, but do you really?
So
Or you don't really?
yeah, yeah. Well, and usually it's like you see the stairs and you're like, those are the stairs. But this one's, this one I actually was excited to shoot at. But I guess the one thing that is nice with the stairs is you can let the dress like cascade down the stairs and see more of it, because that can be challenging when you're doing if you're trying to do this back of the dress shot on level ground.
Yeah.
If you put your, like, I always have this problem where I want to put my camera low so the bride looks tall and majestic and regal, but then you can't see the train of the dress because it's like the perspective. So then you lift the camera up to see the train of the dress, and then the whole image just looks a lot more boring because you don't have that dramatic perspective.
Yeah.
So the stairway kind of fixes all that.
Yeah, but the pose, again, is absolutely exquisite. And like I said, yeah, generally when people are like, yeah, we want a photo on the stairs, you're like, oh, no, you don't. But yeah, like I said, especially when you've got such a beautiful train, it's just done so beautifully. Really, really beautifully. I'd hate to think, or I don't know, like, stop bashing natural light photographers, but can you imagine a natural light photographer with a bride going, oh, I want a photo on the staircase in that light, in those conditions? Like,
yeah, it would have. So that's, yeah, you could have put her face in the sunlight, but then the dress would have been, not showcased and highlighted the way it was. So yeah, there really wasn't. You're not going to get this result with the ambient.
Amazing. No, that once again, that was absolutely stunning. And I just know from when Neil's taught like his basics to off-camera flash, and I think we've got some watchers here who haven't watched one of these live streams before. But just to reiterate, it's so important in conditions like this where you do have bright highlights that before you even start adding your flash, that we really get the exposure right for the highlights, which is exactly what you did, expose to the dress. And then I'd imagine after you've got those settings right, then turn on your flash and add that in as well. But yeah, just to double check, there was no fancy like big soft boxes or anything. It was just a light and a grid.
Yep, exactly. 8200 with a meg grid. And this is the direction of light, the nose shadow kind of being hidden, keeping that short light, just gives you that shape and depth without looking like harsh light, because it falls off around the curve of the face really well.
Yeah.
And also with wide shots like this, the wider the shot is, the less important it is to have like a really soft, flattering light source. If you're shooting tighter, then you notice all of that, the issues that come with that. But for wide shots, you can get away with a lot as far as just using a hard light.
And what I'd love to know as well, because, yeah, I'm just trying to see how many people can side with me, because Neil tells me off for not getting a plate shot, or quite often taking a photo with off-camera flash, be like, nailed it, and then I move the camera and I'm like, oh, I don't have one without the flash in now. Well, is this quite a recent image? Oh, no, I don't think it was. This is before, like, generative fill days. So are you someone who still methodically will take your image with the flash in, then remove the flash and take another without it?
I try to whenever I can. This one wasn't, though. This one, because I didn't have an assistant, and I didn't want to start messing with a tripod, because I knew it'd be pretty easy just for this shot, because it's just this column. It was in front of this column here.
Yeah.
And I knew that wouldn't be too hard to Photoshop. And nowadays it would be even easier with generative fill. So yeah, I've started doing that more recently. I've been getting a little lazy with doing the plate shots because I know how easy it is with the generative fill to take that out. But usually I like to use a plate shot, and I have that's part of the reason I do the light stands I use and my flashes. Everything is I use like these little Arca plates on everything, on my 8200s and on those LED lights, and I have Arca plate on my camera. And then on my light stands, I have these like little Arca ball heads. So I can use my light stand as a tripod for my camera when I need to. So I always have at least two light stands with me. So I always have a tripod and a light that I can use if I want to do a flash composite or,
I've not heard of these things. I'm hoping someone in the chat's going to then go, I know what he's on about, and we'll send us a link so we can have a little look.
It's basically Arca Swiss is just like the little rails that it's like the most standard tripod attachment, like, to mount your camera on a tripod. But you can get those little plates, and it just has a 1/4 20 screw, so you can screw it into anything that has that, which lots of flashes and LED lights and stuff. You can just mount those plates, and then anything that you put that plate on, you can mount. I can mount on my light stand.
Amazing. Right, okay. So hopefully, I'm sure there'll be some links. But you've said as well on this wedding you didn't have an assistant. Is that quite normal for you? I feel like whenever we speak to our American, associates and friends, lots of them, I think, actually, your arch nemesis, Jeff Tisman, was like, I'm sure he said, I wouldn't even take a headshot without an assistant.
Yeah.
Do you regularly have assistants, or are you like a solo player?
No, I'm much more often just by myself. I posted a reel yesterday where I was doing a flash composite by myself. I was holding the light and I was firing the camera with the remote shutter at the same time. So if anyone wants to see that, it's on my Instagram. But yeah, that's usually the case for me, is I'm by myself. Sometimes if I have a second shooter, I'll definitely put them to work doing lighting stuff, moving the light around, but I'm not somebody that has a second photographer in every package, so it's only certain weddings if they pay for a second shooter or if they book a collection that it comes with. So it's probably, I guess, maybe like 50-50 at this point, but over the years, I've definitely done a lot more flash composites and all that stuff by myself than I have with someone there moving the light around for me. So you just need to have somewhere to put your camera, and it's a lot easier when I can mount it on my light stand versus having to carry a tripod. I started doing a lot more flash composites when I figured out how to mount my camera on the light stand versus carrying a tripod with me.
If I took a tripod, it would never ever leave the van. I
don't think problem. It's I don't have time to run back to my car and get it, and I'm not going to carry it around all day with me. So if we weren't 10 feet from the parking lot, it just wasn't going to happen before. But now I can just do them wherever. So
yeah, amazing. Jeff's still listening, and Jeff says, "I think Helen wants a brawl to happen. Lol. We can play dodgeball." This is quite the throwdown. We can play dodgeball, except instead of balls, we'll throw flashes at each other. I'm like, Jeff, have you seen Tim's guns in his gym? He's going to knock you out if you hit one.
Can I use my 8600?
Oh, dear me. I can't even say I'd pay to watch that. I can't watch anything with any kind of aggression. I'm useless. I can't watch boxing or MMA, anything. I'm like, I can't watch. So, yeah, the peril would just be too great. So, yeah, if we could do it with water balloons instead, then I'm all for it. But, yeah, I won't be encouraging throwing flashes at each other. Amazing. But yeah, once again, this is absolutely stunning. I believe we've got one more for the people who are watching on YouTube. And just to remind everyone, this stream will continue afterwards for all of our Flashmasters members. So after this next image, when we say goodbye, we're not really going anywhere. Okay, let's see if I can get this correct. Boom. Now, I will say, this obviously what picked up, I think it wasn't the last round, it might have been the round before, and we actually had a question because we changed the Flashmasters rules, or we adapted them to obviously look at use of generative fill a lot and using of AI. And there was actually questions. Yeah, basically, yeah. I was like, no, no way was that there. I actually, before I gave, Tim actually knew he was getting this award because I had to check that actually this was a flare that was actually in camera and it wasn't just added for creative effect afterwards. And it was real. Boom.
Yep, the sun was just peeking out of the side of the building, the church where we did this. And this was like I was just saying. I had my camera on my light stand / tripod setup that I was just talking about, and I just like backed up right to the spot where the edge of the light was coming, so so I'd get that starburst effect. Because I had no intention of doing that at first, and then I just saw that the sun was there, and I was like, oh, that would be cool to do a flash composite with like sun flare coming in. That's something I've never done before. So it worked out pretty well. I was pleased with how it came out. This one this one I did have a second shooter, and she was this is another one that I made a reel out of. So if anyone wants to see the behind the scenes of that, it's out there on my Instagram. But yeah, she was moving the softbox around. This is like a 33-inch the glow softbox that Adorama sells, 33-inch one, which I don't use anymore. But at the time, this was last fall when I took this one. Yeah,
absolutely amazing. And was this again with an AD200 or?
This was a 300, AD300.
300
with that softbox on it. Yeah.
Amazing. So when you've got this, obviously a very large light source compared to the others that we've looked at, which is just one light source with a grid. Were you lighting sort of the couples in pairs? Obviously they stood pretty much in pairs. Would each image have lit both people?
Yeah, so it was, I believe, just one shot for each couple here. So it would be, 7 shots with the ambient only exposure.
Excellent. And I know we've discussed sort of composites quite regularly on recent live streams. Neil and I are just addicted to them now. But one thing, I don't know whether it's been covered or whether I've asked anyone this before, but when I've previously been doing them, I've kind of been trying to light them from the same side. Is there a particular rule? Because I know you composite group shots quite a lot. Obviously, because we're talking about, the short lighting, not wanting to broad light, particularly females. We want that flattering light. Do you ask your sort of your assistant when they're holding do you light them from different ways depending on which way they're facing in, or do you tend to stand your assistant the same way, if that makes sense?
So I do not care at all about trying to have all the light coming from one direction to make it more believable, because to me these shots are inherently I'm inherently going for a very surreal look. It's not going to look super like, oh, they just happen to be standing in this amazing light. Like it's obviously something's going on with this photo. I want it to look like they all have an individual spotlight. So I don't care about each one of those coming from the same direction. I'm just focused on like what's going to be look flattering / interesting for each person or couple that I'm lighting. So it kind of varies. Like you're saying, I will basically default to short lighting the women in the wedding party. But sometimes, I just notice for some reason, like I think it might look better the other way, and I'll switch it up. And in this case, so if I short light, I think in this case I did basically just short light everyone, which results in the light is coming from different directions on each side.
Yeah.
As they're facing in. But then, sometimes I'll just do it differently. Somebody might have glasses on and that's creating a reflection or something. So I'll light it from the other side because it looks better in that case.
Yeah.
Or I've been experimenting more thanks to, listening to Jesse and Myra and Jeff talk about, the way they use the boom lighting, which I got some boom lighting going on right here. I gave myself a lighting upgrade since last time I was on a Zoom call. I have this little softbox like over the top of the my webcam pointed down on me, so I have this nice shadow hiding my double chins here, so nobody can. But yeah,
I've been double chins.
I've been trying to do more of that and experiment with that a little bit. So instead of coming hard from one direction or the other, having it come more from overhead and see what that looks like. I do tend to still, I guess I still like to have a little bit of a catch light most of the time. But it's really just case by case, like what looks the best, and I'll experiment too. Like that shot that I was talking about, that reel I made where you can see me holding the light and moving it around, and you can see in that video, I take like 3 or 4 shots for each couple, like moving the light and like changing the angle of it, because I don't want to be running back and forth from the camera to see what looks best. I just like kind of guess. I'll try it here, and then in post I go through and pick the ones that look the best for each couple and then blend those together.
Amazing. So. I still can't believe that you do so many composites, like shot yourself as well. So just so I know, because I don't think you're a Sony shooter, are you, like myself?
No, can't. Well, I mean, after yesterday's news, maybe I will be a Sony shooter soon, but
no, but
if anyone wants to send me $6,000 to spend on a new camera that I have no lenses for.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a big change for you. But yeah, you're currently are you Canon now?
Yeah, I shoot Canon now, yeah.
Perfect. So just for anyone else who's shooting Canon, who wants to do composites on their own as well, how are you sort of seeing what you're getting? Or is there an app or something that you use to trigger the... Because I know back in the days I used to shoot Canon, I used to have like just an analog, like, just a black piece of plastic, and then you'd press to trigger. But is there something a bit more fancy these days that you can see where you're getting?
So there's a few different ways you can do it. There's like the Canon app that you can connect to and just do it from your phone, which I've only played with that like once, and it seemed really, it's just like a pain in the ass to get it to connect, and you have to use Wi-Fi and all this stuff. And so I've never tried it with that at a wedding. There's a Canon Bluetooth remote, which I tried, and then that also like failed to connect to my camera. I was just standing there like an idiot in front of my clients, like, oh, sorry, this isn't working, I guess. And I just ended up like running back and forth from the camera for that shot because I didn't have my remote wasn't working. So I wouldn't recommend that either.
I'm like, this is where we're learning.
What I do, what I have now, which isn't like the greatest, I don't know. There's like a million different ones on the market, but I just have a radio trigger remote shutter release. So it's the kind that literally it has a cord that plugs into the front of the camera, and then it's like just hanging down with the receiver, and then I have the radio trigger. And it's one that I've had it for like probably 6 or 7 years since I had my old back when I shot Nikon. I think not like 3 Nikon cameras ago is when I got this, and wow. I just had it in a drawer, and I just was able to order a new cable for it that plugs into my Canon camera. So that's what I've been using the last few times I've done this. But
I like it.
And another way that you can do it is you can set up your camera to fire on the built-in intervalometer. So it's going off like every 3 seconds or however you set it. And then, so you're like holding the flash and it's just like constantly firing every few seconds. And you're just telling people, all right, keep looking at the camera, and then you're holding the light, and you see the flash pop, and then you like move the light and do another one. So I've done that too, but that kind of stresses me out. It's like a ticking time bomb or something going on. Like I feel like I'm under pressure, like with this flash going off constantly. But it does work. But I prefer just having the shutter release so I can time the shot right when I see they have the right expression and their head is tilted where I want it and everything like that. So
amazing. I have to take my hat off to you, my metaphorical one, to get, these shots done in the pressure of a real wedding day, to be doing them on your own. Is just absolutely phenomenal. You huge respect, especially when for many of us UK photographers, we're literally now just learning what these composite images are. It seems like you've been doing this for quite some time and have really got that sort of down pat now. But to do that on your own, obviously I know you had an assistant on this one, but you've time and time again entered so many composites, and like I said, to do that under the stress and pressure and time constraint of a wedding day is just phenomenal. So incredible.
Well, thanks. I was thinking about this the other day. I think the first time I did this was like 2010 or 11, and it wasn't a wedding even. It was like a family portrait session. I gotta give credit because I learned the person I learned this from was Ryan Brenizer way back in the day. As far as I know, he was the first person doing these at weddings.
Wow.
At least that's who I heard about it from, like back in 2009 or 10 or whenever that was, and then I tried it out eventually, just on like a family session that I was doing, which isn't like I don't even really do family sessions anymore. That was like when I was first like trying to start on photography and just doing anything anybody asked me to do. I was like, yeah, I'll do that, and like. And then I started doing it at weddings. I did it a few times at weddings, but I didn't really start doing it consistently all the time until probably like I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago is when
You were still so far ahead of most photographers. Yeah, you're a million miles ahead of us. Like I said, I feel like I'm a trailblazer here in the UK doing them. I know that our Flashmasters member Drew Dodd's been doing them for a few years too, but it genuinely feels, since starting Flashmasters and having these conversations with the likes of yourself and our incredible ambassadors, that look at me, I feel like I'm leading the way, and yet you guys have been doing it for like 12 years. It's absolutely incredible. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to close this up for our YouTube watchers. So for those of you who have joined us on our YouTube channel, thank you so much. Obviously, thank you, Tim. Here on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find plenty of other interviews with lots of incredible photographers, all deconstructing and telling us how they created their off-camera flash images. So if you haven't seen any more, please do check those out. And if you'd like to hear more from Tim and all of our other speakers that you see on the YouTube channel, you can watch in full all of their interviews ready as soon as you join Flashmasters. So if you'd like to do that, you can do it at flashmasters.co. So, Tim, again, thank you so much for your time. Everyone who's in the members zone, hold tight because we're going to continue. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.